You ready?
Yeah.
Just your thoughts on the way the camp has started. Now you're almost, I guess tomorrow's 2 weeks in.
Yeah, I mean, we've made a significant progress over these last 2 weeks here. At this point in the camp, we have 95% of our defense in. So, the knowledge is there. We just got to tighten the bolts, right? So, just kind of what you would typically expect and where we're at. Just got to fine tune the communication, make sure that we're all on the same page, specifically on the back end with the coverages and stuff like that. But it's about where we thought it would be. The competition level is high, so that's all brings another piece to it.
So many guys who come back, and then so many guys coming in. The dynamic has to be kind of an interesting one, even with yourself getting back to field coaching. But when you look at some of the safeties, especially you have 3 guys who are competing for a spot in the spring, and that's kind of falling apart with Jason. How do you keep those guys motivated knowing that they saw so much change coming into that position all summer?
I mean, it's not like it was a secret or anything. Everybody knew that we were fit in the spring, and the whole premise of this program is competition, right? That's what we're harping on every day, is that the standard is the standard. How are we going to elevate our game? Well, it's through competition on a day-to-day basis. So that's where talking to the guys and making sure there were no surprises. Hey, look, we're bringing extra guys in because we need competition, we need depth, we need all sorts of things, right? So the hardest part is just divvying up the reps accordingly, right? And so I think we've done a pretty good job of that and changing who's with who so that you don't get into a comfort zone of always working with the same guy, corner, safety corner, all that kind of stuff.
What's your evaluation of Marvin Grant so far, how he's come in?
He's obviously kind of get thrown in the fire, right? Trying to learn he's kind of where the players were last year, right? He's trying to, in a short time frame, catch on, and again, just he's flashed. He's pretty good, but we just got to fine tune the communication piece, and once he gets the full thing rolling, I'm excited to see where he goes.
He looks longer and lankier than I thought. Does that length show up when he's out in the field?
Oh yeah, I mean he's able to use his levers, right? He's able to use it whether it's a catch technique, whether it's clubbing and wrapping on tackles, so that definitely is an advantage anytime you got a longer guy, and that's shown up a few times during camp.
You mentioned he flashed. When he is flashing, what does that skill set look like?
Well, he's flashing a bunch of different areas. From a physicality standpoint, he'll strike you. And from a coverage standpoint, his footwork is decent. He's able to use his length to make up any kind of deficiencies of footwork. Again, the longer he's in the defense, the more comfortable he's going to be and the more confident he'll be able to play. And so these next 2 weeks are going to be critical as far as just continuing to gain that level of confidence.
And so many newcomers in general with the safeties room. I guess how overall have those guys integrated? You mentioned kind of getting thrown in the fire. How have those guys managed it?
It's actually been impressive. Whether it's the meeting room, whether it's on the field, guys coaching each other up, and they all know they're fighting for the same jobs. Right? And it's just part of college football. That is what it is. And now as coaches, we're fortunate enough to have guys in the room that are challenging each other, right? And so the more that we can have, the better it's going to be. And credit to those guys, there hasn't been a lot of ego. There hasn't been a lot of, there's not friction going on. They're communicating with one another. At the same time, when they step between the white lines, they know they're being evaluated every single snap. So they've done a nice job of that.
Switching gears to corner, what's that competition been like between Jacoby and Romello?
It's been good. We got a pretty steady rotation. Same kind of deal I talked about earlier is we're taking that corner group and mixing them in with the safeties, right? So anytime that you have sharp, crisp communication, you're always able to play faster, right? Well, when you're waiting for a check, right? So I always just rotate those guys through. Who's with the ones? Who's with the twos? Who's with the threes? And they've kind of gone back and forth. It's been their days, between him, Kobe, Mello, Gerv, Shad is in the mix with Quentin and Tay now. So there's quite a bit of competition going on in that room too.
How do you see the slot situation shaping up? Would you move Gervin inside in that nickel role when needed, or how does that come together?
So as a secondary, our whole thought process is that the more positions guys can play, the more versatile they can be, the better off we'll be as a defense, because you never know what's going to happen in a season. Guys go down, you got to slide some guys over. So we're actually dual training a few guys, both from the corner spot to the nickel spot and the safety spot to the nickel spot, right? So we feel pretty decent. We're way ahead of where we were last year at this time. Last year was kind of who can learn this defense but also handle it mentally, right? Well, now we're able to go, okay, we have the time to make sure they know the defense, right? What skill set fits us the best in the situation, right? So now we're able to go put pieces where we want to be based on the situation, and that's going to help us.
Hey Jordan, what have you seen from McGarry?
So he had surgery before, a long time ago, but like he is getting his football legs back while at the same time learning the defense, right? So he's a physical player, does a really nice job of from a footwork standpoint. His short area burst is really good. He's just got to get his football legs back. He starts to wear down a little bit towards the end of practice, which that's a conversation that him and I have had, and he knows it. That's just part of the development piece of getting here 2 weeks prior to camp. But he's got the right head on his shoulders. Like he's got the right approach. He's doing the extra work, whether that's through film study or he's doing extra stuff with strength staff and stuff like that. So I like where he's at. We just got to keep climbing.
So I got kind of a trick question for you.
Here we go.
If you had to at a corner, would you want a guy who's pretty good in cover but not physical, or a guy who's okay in cover but a good tackler and physical?
Neither. No. So obviously that's always the forever question, right? And to me, it depends on the offense. What offense are you playing, right? So again, the guys have to know the whole defense, right? And then depending on what offensive scheme we're facing, one guy might have a leg up on the other, right? But obviously, in an ideal world, they're great cover guys that aren't afraid to stick it in there. It may not be a killer, right? But they'll be willing to stick their face in there and throw it into contact.
When we talked to you in the spring, you mentioned wanting to see more consistency from the group as a whole. I guess have you seen that through camp so far, and how have the guys kind of gone about being more consistent?
They have improved significantly from the spring from a consistency standpoint. As a coach, you're never satisfied with it, right? You're always challenging them to continue that climb. I think that we still have a long way to go as far as finishing plays, the urgency, right? Scramble drill, just the little things that can turn out to be big differences in games. But we've taken significant strides. I'm proud of where the group's at as a whole. Again, though, it's like this afternoon. I'm going to challenge the heck out of them. Hey, look, man, these are the things that we have to improve if we want to be where we want to be at here in a couple weeks.
Yeah. How much does having older players like Monte, even Jarrett Paul to some degree, but Monte, Kalon, how much does having those experienced guys help with that?
It's huge, right? They have a different perspective on things, right? They come in, they've been in other programs before, they've been in the quote unquote fire, and sometimes it's always good just to shake things up a little bit, put things into perspective for the guys and understand that we are always trying to compete. And when you try to recruit personalities that you feel like gel with the culture, right, with the rest of the room, that you feel like is going to help elevate the game of the rest of the room. And I think that we hit home runs with Gerb and with Tay as far as being able to provide competition and improve the room overall from a competition standpoint.
Gotcha.
What's the